Good morning. I'm here with Gary Bradfield of Phoenix Bonds.
And I'm here with Hannah van Deventers, also Phoenix Bonds.
So today we want to talk about the topic of the week, which is the impending rate announcement from
happening on Thursday.
The MPC. Okay. We're not sure what it's going to be, but let's just have a look at what it has been. So the last 3 rate hikes have been 75 basis points in November. We had a 25 basis point hike at the start of the year. And then in March, we had a 50 basis point hike. So we're
almost grateful when we get 25 basis points, don't we?
No, I know, it's good. Back in the days where there was no change at 7%, I think that's long gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, Hannah, the question on everybody's lips is, what is consensus on what's going to happen on Thursday with the interest rate increase? Are we going to see one? And if we are, which seems to be consensus, what do you think that is going to be?
Yeah, so I actually made a prediction at the start of the year.
No,
I was on track.
Are you economists?
I was on track.
You know they lie.
I was on track for the first one, and I'm just going to throw that graph out the window now because I said no change for the rest of the year. But I think we're definitely going to get a rate hike on Thursday. Whether that's 25 basis points or 50, it's yet to be seen. I know Investec made a prediction of 75. Yeah. I'm going to call 50.
Okay, I think that's probably the number it's going to be. Interestingly, the 75 basis points came in commentary, which suggested that that is actually what is required. And I know this will haunt consumers, but that is actually what's required to strengthen the rand in any meaningful way. So anything below that, even if it is 50 basis points, doesn't do enough to strengthen the rand. And of course, the higher the interest rate, the more foreign investment we get. And that's essentially what this country needs so badly at the moment. Hannah, what does it do to the average consumer family's budget?
So it's quite hectic. I mean, let's look at the average total household income of 30,000 Rand. You'd expect your max bond repayment in that household to be 9,000 Rand. Back when interest rates were 7%, which is only a couple of years ago, that household could afford a bond of 1.1 million, which is pretty much the South African average house price.
It's kind of a sweet spot, isn't it?
It's a sweet spot. It's where we see a lot of our bonds, our average bonds. So that household now at 11.25% will only be able to afford a bond of 850. If we get a 50 basis point hike on Thursday, their bond amount will be 800. So you can see it has quite a huge effect on households.
Yeah, that's almost 400,000 Rand. That's almost 30% down on what they would have qualified for. Of course, and the same costs apply to that home loan, the same costs apply to repayment. So it really does have an effect. I was looking a little bit at inflation, which is always very topical, and it has to do with rates. And we've been creeping up slowly from 6.9 at the beginning of the year, and the last inflation figures that we have, which were for March, pinned us at 7.1. So it'll be interesting to see what's reported through for April as well, because we know that the target going forward for 24 and 25 is between 6 and 6.5%.
Yeah.
So we need to get inflation down.
And those figures are hectic. I mean, if we look at 2019, the average annual inflation was 4.2%.
Absolutely.
And then in 2020, it was 4.61. And 2022, in the midst of COVID, I think it was about 3.2.
Yeah, the lowest it's been for many years.
We've had.
And what you find with inflation, of course, is that we have increases to consumer pricing, which is creeping up slowly. So from 0.75% increase in February to a full 1%, just over 1% in March. We don't know what that's done in April. So altogether, a tough time for the South African consumer. I mean, what is the good news, though? The good news.
I think that on average, if you look at the Property 24 statistics, you can see on average the houses are selling for about 60 to 70% of the listing price. Obviously, the pressure's on sellers at the moment, so it is a buyer's market.
Absolutely.
So yes, you can't afford the loan amount that you could 2 years ago, but you can still afford to buy a house, and you'll get one cheaper.
Absolutely, and I think on top of that, our banks, although they are sensibly conservative, which they expected to be in terms of the National Credit Act, I think that we're definitely seeing very reasonable adjudication of home loan applications. Still the predominant 90% plus coming through at 100% of purchase price. So I think our colleagues and friends at the banks are really doing the very best they can to make it as efficient and easy as possible for our home buyers to get into the market at this time.
No, it's definitely good. I'm finding that the banks now are willing to work with purchasers where before they just say decline, not interested. They're now offering a lower LTV, or they'll reassess the application in 3 months, and all they require of the purchaser is to close a few accounts. The banks are obviously focusing on debt service ratio on unsecured at the moment.
Yes.
So credit cards, personal loans, things like that, quick cash loans, don't do that, it's bad.
Yeah, try and keep those out.
It's tempting to do that right now, but...
I'm not going to tell you how many I have.
I mean, really, if you want debt right now, you want good debt. You don't want
absolutely.
bad debt. And
manageable and well managed. So
it's always a good idea to buy a home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that was it for our inaugural session, which you will find now happening at the same time, same place every week, brought to you by Deventers and Deventers attorneys and the kind, efficient, swift folk at Phoenix Bond. So from Hannah, a goodbye.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, all the best. Bye-bye.